Welcome back to the best news show on YouTube, where we actually show you real news and not some drama stuff that, you get online nowadays. In this episode, we'll be talking about tissue paper and a bit about running. This is math news.
If only there was the perfect tissue paper.
But we all can be glad because in fact mathematics have brought us even closer to having the perfect tissue paper thanks to research by Sheldon Green and Sikran Pani at the University of British Columbia. Well, you see, one of the stages in the manufacturing of tissue paper involves a process called creping. When making tissue paper, the paper must be dried using something called a Yankee dryer. During the process of creping, the paper is scraped off this Yankee dryer using something called a creping blade. The process of creping is what makes tissue paper weaker, makes it thinner, and makes it more wrinkled. Interestingly, the process of creping can be modelled mathematically. Earlier models of this process were mostly static models and were in fact quite limited. Those models didn't really consider the effects of something like the velocity that the Yankee dryer was turning at. However, Sheldon Green and Sikran Pani at the University of British Columbia have developed a new model for the creping process. Their new model considers a lot more factors, like how fast the paper is moving, how fast the Yankee dryer is spinning, the chemicals that might be in use, the angle of the creping blade, and so on. The fact that this model involves a lot more factors into it than the previous models means that the tissue manufacturers can control the creping process even more. And the ability to control the creping process more means that they can customize the produced tissue paper even further to produce tissue papers of different grades. And this would allow the manufacturers of tissue paper to move even closer towards the ideal tissue paper. And that, my friends, is how mathematics can save our ass. So now on to the other news that I have for you. I believe most of us are aware of the Rio Olympics that have just recently passed. Now, one of the events that were competed at the Olympics were the track events where people ran and sprinted against each other. And at Rio Olympics in 2016, we saw Usain Bolt winning 3 gold medals and also saw Almaz Ayana running 10,000 meters in a world record time. And yes, those were in fact really good individual performances by the athletes. But the question is how good? Just how good were the runs of Usain Bolt or Almaz Ayana compared to the other runs by the other track athletes in the past? Because how impressive these runs are is not all about how fast these runners were able to complete it in. And also, is there even a way to compare something like a 100-meter dash with something else like a 10-kilometer run? Well, in fact, the statisticians at Lancaster University and CSIRO Data Analytics have tried to answer this very question. They were on a quest to find what was the best track performance by an athlete in history. And to tackle this problem, the researchers had to use something called the extreme value theory, which, as the name suggests, is used to analyze data which has extreme deviations from the median. Well, they compared the different performances by the runners in a certain year and looked for the runs which exceeded the performances in that year. They weren't just looking for the best runs in a certain year, but the runs which were much better than all the other runs during that year. And the researchers also had to consider the other factors like the technology that was available during that time, or the assistance from the wind, or possibly doping of the athletes. This method developed by the researchers allows the runs in different years throughout history to be compared, and also allowed the runs of different lengths to be compared against each other. And so what was the best track performance of all time. They concluded that the best male performance of all time was by Lee Evans, who ran 400 meters at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico. The American runner set the world record for the best run in the 400 meter race, and that record wasn't to be broken until 20 years later. And as for Usain Bolt, his best performance only ranked third on the overall males list, and this was the performance in 2009 in Berlin when he ran 200 meters and also beat the world record. And the researchers concluded that the best female track performance was by Florence Griffith-Joyner, who sprinted 100 meters at the 1988 Olympics in Seoul. And Alma Sayana's 10,000 meter run at the Rio Olympics ranked 5th on the best female track performances of all time. And you can check the link in the description below for the original article and for the whole top 10 list of the best track performances. And yes, that's it for today's episode of Math News. If you like what you see, you can like or you can subscribe to the channel. If you don't like what you see, you can maybe put in the comments section of what I can do better. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon. Goodbye.